You're separated and most likely getting a divorce, and now you have to sort through years of things. Before you do that, let's talk about the emotional stuff. So first of all, the first thing before you even go through a photo, I want you to pack on the self-forgiveness. This is going to be your anchor. It is going to be your guide as you work through this traumatic, possibly traumatic situation. Divorces, separations, leaving a relationship is like mourning a death. And if you're watching this video, you've most likely been through that mourning a couple years ago. If you are here and you've decided to act on and to move with the decision to leave, you've already been thinking about it for years. And so I want you to forgive yourself for not moving sooner. I want you to forgive the version of yourself for ignoring signs. I want you to forgive yourself for making excuses and for accepting things that today you absolutely would not accept. Without forgiving yourself as a foundation throughout this process, you're not going to be able to organize anything. You're not going to be able to sort through. You've cried and you're probably still crying. It's probably still painful, but this space that you're in, now that you've decided and you're acting on separating and you're actually moving and getting your own place and going through that whole process of the tangible, the outside things, this is a new wave of grief. This is a new step in the process, and you have to pack on the self-forgiveness. Just like maybe you didn't do it before, now is the time to triple down on forgiving that version of yourself, and even forgiving the version of yourself that got into the relationship. You are going to try to overcompensate and take on more accountability than you need to, most likely. You are even excusing, like, why didn't you see the signs? How could you be with someone that did it this way? This is your fault. And this is why self-forgiveness is the first step in separation and downsizing your home from a divorce. So forgive yourself for what you didn't know. Forgive yourself for knowing now and actually doing something about it now. Forgive the version of you that made excuses. Forgive yourself for even having empathy or compassion and even still trying to understand. Forgive yourself for still having that little voice that's considering maybe we can reconcile, maybe 5 years from now, 10 years from now. Even forgive yourself for those thoughts. Forgive yourself as you go through this process. You've never done this before. Maybe you have, but you are meeting a new version of you. You've never had this experience in your life. So you have to forgive yourself for the way that you walk through it and not micromanage how you walk through it. So forgiveness, forgiveness, forgiveness. And we're going to come back to this throughout the video because it is the foundation of where you're going, where you are. Now, this could be interchanged with the first part, but the second part of this is I want you to give yourself grace for how you walk through the next few steps. I know a lot of times women, especially if you are leaving an emotionally abusive, manipulative, or controlling, or if there's some level of abuse and manipulation, I want you to give yourself grace for what you didn't do. A lot of times, 9 times out of 10, you saw the signs. There were probably signs from day one, and you were holding out, hoping, waiting, feeling like it was your duty or your obligation to heal with this other person, help them heal. You probably felt like this was a part of your job in the relationship to carry their trauma with them or work through their trauma with them. And so I want you to give yourself grace for doing that. I want you to give yourself grace for what wasn't clear, right? So now that you're in this second wave of separation, divorce, the second wave of acting on your decision. Acting on your decision looks like, oh, I'm looking at apartments, I'm looking at new homes, I'm physically packing up my things. There's a new wave of grief and mourning that you have to do for the relationship. And so now there is a new level of grace that you have to give yourself as you go through this next step, this next part of the process. And so for giving yourself and giving yourself grace for what you didn't know, because now, right now, you see things very clearly. And a couple years ago, you saw things clearly, but you were still in a mental fog. You were still holding on to the hope. You were still holding on to the possibility of the waiting for the change, of the excuses, of the not really accepting or seeing how low your self-esteem was, or maybe how your self-worth was tied into waiting and the hoping. There was still all that fog, that emotional fog. So now that you have more mental clarity, I want you to double down on the grace of not knowing then what you know now, not seeing fully clearly what you see fully and clearly right now. Give yourself grace for what you did not do. Give yourself grace for not leaving before. Give yourself grace for getting in the relationship in the first place, right? Give yourself grace for the decisions that you made, because you were making decisions from a completely different space. Give yourself grace for making those decisions that you would never make today. Give yourself grace for that. Do not pile on any more criticism, any more pain and hurt, because that's going to further cloud your judgment. And one of the most important pieces about moving out of a relationship that did some emotional damage is trusting yourself again, and allowing your intuition to lead you. The reason you have to forgive yourself and give yourself grace is because you will not be able to trust yourself and forgive yourself if you can't even trust yourself to talk to yourself nicely, right? You're not even going to be able to hear yourself. And so that's why you have to give yourself grace for what you didn't do, for what you didn't know, and for the decisions that you made. Give yourself grace. Okay, now we are going into the physical decluttering. Now you can start wherever you want to start. Start with the easiest things. I personally started with the easiest things. I started with books, but you can start with something that is just an easy, honestly, none of it is going to be easy, but easiest, right? What is something in your home that doesn't necessarily have too much attachment to the relationship? And that way you can declutter these items without so much emotional weight. It's going to be easier to say, okay, I'm going to keep this, I'm going to donate this, I'm going to trash this, I actually want to give this away. It'll be easier to do that when you start with something that doesn't have so many ties to the relationship. And what we're doing here is we're making space to declutter memorabilia, because that is going to be the toughest category to work through. You couldn't do it before, right? So know that you couldn't do it before, and your ability to do it now is going to be contingent on the grace, the forgiveness, and the love that you pack on. Because as you go through memorabilia, there is going to be a wave of shoulda, coulda, wouldas, the hopes, the wishes, the regrets, the confusion of the asking yourself, how the fuck did I get here? When did things change? You are going to try to figure out, as you go through these other emotions, you're going to try to pinpoint, when did things switch? When did things change? Why didn't I see it? Did I see it? What was going on in my mind? What was going on in my life that it didn't click? I remember doing that, and I remember making a big deal out of that. Why didn't I leave then? You are going to go through a lot of regrets, you're gonna go through this because women, especially Black women, we have been trained to take on a lot more emotional labor, and women in general, we have been trained to take on more of the mental load than men have. And so we end up overcompensating and taking more accountability for things that we have no business taking accountability for. And usually a lot of times too, our partners, especially if it's abusive, our partners are also encouraging us to take accountability for things that we don't got no business taking accountability for people's bad behavior. And so the reason why this is key in the decluttering process, the grace, the forgiveness, making space for the decluttering, because you're automatically going to go through these wave emotions that are almost going to be a distraction for working through the process of physically throwing out things. And so I want you to move through this next part of decluttering, this next part of separation with as much ease as you possibly can. And so to do that, you have to I'm giving you some tips of like what to look out for. And you're going to go through your memorabilia and you're going to be blaming yourself for a lot more than you should. And so look out for that. And that is okay. And that's why self-forgiveness and grace are the first two. Because if you see yourself taking on more blame, trying to take more accountability, and most likely you if you're watching this, you've already taken accountability. That's the thing. You've already, there's a reason why this showed up on your YouTube feed and your Google search or wherever, because you've already taken accountability. You're trying to see how to do things differently, how to self-reflect. You've gotten here because you've already taken accountability for your part. Now, when you're decluttering, you are going to want to take on more of that. And so that's why we triple down on the grace and the self-forgiveness, because we want to make space for decluttering our memorabilia. Don't make every item about something emotional or deep, or it's tied to the past, or everything doesn't have to be deep. Everything doesn't have to be tied to even though everything is tied to a memory, things could just be things, right? So when you're going through your memorabilia, you're going through the travel, you know what I'm talking about. The travel, the souvenirs, okay? When you're going through the souvenirs, you're going through the love letters, you're going through all of these keepsakes. You are going to try to assign meaning to everything. So as a collection of things, all of the things, you know, whether you have this memorabilia stored in a box, a photo box, or whatever, it's all tied to the meaning of this relationship, right? What it meant, the love, the good times, the bad times, all that good stuff. But as you're physically trying to figure out what to keep and what to throw out, you may get stuck because you're like, everything has a meaning. Oh, if I throw this out, this means this. Some things are just things. And so one thing, I actually love this Marie Kondo tip. I know that she's denounced her process since having kids. Please spare me with that. But this specific tip about one thing she said was she loves getting rid of, you know, Christmas cards, holiday cards, just cards, because it's a message. You received the message, and that was the point of the card. So now you could discard the card. I absolutely love this tip. Now, me personally, I don't discard all of my holiday cards and birthday cards. I have quite a few cards that I keep from my relationship, from my birthday. However, I want you to carry that tip because that's going to be an important tip. Now, the cards that y'all got as a couple from their coworkers and from their job, do they really mean anything? I mean, you know, it's ultimately up to you, but I feel like those are one of those items that they really don't have meaning. The holiday card was sent to you as a couple. Happy holidays from so-and-so family. Now y'all are divorced and separating. You don't need those cards anymore. Now, if you had a very close, special relationship with this one of their coworkers or their family, definitely keep one or two. But if you had no relationship with them and it was their people, baby, pull them cards together and throw them out. Especially if you're moving into a smaller space and you don't have space, baby, let them cards go. We don't need those holiday cards. It's okay. You looked at them once. Oh, this is nice, and you never looked at them again. Those cards can go, baby. And the last thing I want you to do is redefine what home means to you. You've most likely compromised your taste, your just your preferences for your space. You've most likely changed who you are to align more with who they are, just to have that, camaraderie, that coupleness. That just is something that naturally happens. Often though, if you are coming from an abusive, emotionally manipulative situation, then you've probably suppressed a lot of yourself. And so I want you to lean into the excitement of meeting her again. And while you do that, right before you start, mood boarding and buying the things and furniture, before you may not even got the keys yet, right? I want you to start to redefine what home means to you. What do you value? Who are you? Who do you truly want to be? And how do you want that to be reflected in your home? And I want you to do this now, because it's going to take time to rediscover yourself, and it's going to take some refinement. And so before you get the tangible, right, before you actually do the painting and the wallpaper and actually do the shopping, I want you to take time to sit, think, reflect, and marinate on who you are, who that is, and how you want that to be reflected in your space. What does home now feel like and look like for yourself? And especially if you have kids, how do you want to experience life and home now with your kids no longer being married? All right, so this is your chance to choose you. This is your chance to choose something different. This is your chance to reclaim yourself and rediscover yourself. And we don't want to you can't drop that ball, right? The way that you go through the process is how you go through the process. But a wonderful way to do that is to give yourself the space now to marinate, discover, just let it feel, let you become embodied with the things that you truly want. So when you're shopping, it's and you're decorating and you're doing the new organizing in your new home, it's gonna be from a place of certainty and joy and groundedness, because you've settled who you are. What you want for your home now has settled, and so the next step is to enjoy that new phase. So next video, I am going to be talking about how to spot narcissistic behavior. And if you are separated, most likely getting a divorce, and you're leaving a marriage that was manipulative and emotionally abusive and controlling, you are definitely going to want to watch this video, because it's going to give you insight and things to be able to spot now, but also spot in future potential relationships if that's what you want. Because one thing God gonna do, one thing the universe gonna do, is gonna test to see if you've learned the lesson. You're gonna leave one bad situation, and then you're gonna be tested potentially with another situation at work, a partnership, or a friendship, right? So we want to be able to spot, and I got some things to share with you, to give to you, to allow you to spot those patterns and those behaviors. So watch that next. Thank you for watching. Bye.